What's up, my fellow spiritually enlightened schizophrenics? So today is gonna be a fucking weird video. I don't know how I'm gonna do this because it's gonna be talking about a lot of weird shit, and I think most of you are gonna think I'm fucking crazy after this, like straight up schizophrenic. But for some reason, I've decided this is a good idea. So if you're ready for some crazy shit, some wild, magical, weird, fucking shit. What's up, baby? Glad to have you here. Welcome to the channel. Most of my videos are not like this, but you know, we're gonna try something new, cause fuck it. So, just a warning, before we start, I have to give you my little sad, tragic anime backstory, because that will give you context for the rest of this video. I don't want to, like, have you feel bad for me, because, like, this isn't something that I want to say so you could feel bad for me, be like, oh, I had it so hard. Nah, it's just so you could get context for the rest of the shit, because, like, if I tell you this, you'll understand, and if not, then shit's just gonna be fucking confusing. So, quick little run through, and also a warning, it's not really fun. We get into dark topics in this channel because, you know, sometimes you live a dark life, and that's how it be sometimes. So if you don't want to hear about some really, really sad shit, you could go. It's okay. I don't fucking mind. But anyways, so, when I was a kid, I had this funky little thing called childhood abuse and abandonment and shit like that. We don't have to talk about it too much, but my mother wasn't that good to me. She was kind of like not the best. My father was barely in my life unless I was doing sports. We don't have to talk about it too much, but you know, that's what we're working with here. Like a lot of pain, PTSD, neglect, and abuse. You know, that kind of fun shit that we all love to talk about, you know? And then a lot of people in my life have died, like a lot of my family members I watched died. Some of my friends, you know, they didn't make it. Two of my exes, you know. It's been tough, you know. I had a tough life, you know. So for a while there was a lot of pain and sadness in my life, you know. I was just like, hey, you know, my life was kind of bad. Maybe if I date this person, it will be good. And then they die and you're like, damn, shit kind of sucks, you know. Well, then there's one day I was just being sad and shit, and I took some shrooms and I had an ego death. And I have a whole ass video on that whole story and that whole trip. So if you want to watch it, I'll link it somewhere over here. But basically the important shit that you need to know is I was walking on a conveyor belt because I was walking home at 3 in the morning on a lot of shrooms. Don't ever do that. Pro tip, if you're taking shrooms, don't ever fucking do that, because that's like a guaranteed ticket to have a bad trip. But for some ungodly reason I didn't, thank God. But you know, for somehow I fucking didn't. And during this trip, I saw my past and my future, and I saw that my past was just a lot of darkness. There was like, so like, I was on this conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt lit up with light, and I understood it to be the timeline of my life. It's hard to explain, but you know, that's the best we got right now. And the point I was at on this conveyor belt, there was just a patch of really, really dark and sad and just gloomy shit, and I felt all my childhood traumas, and I was like, ah. And then I looked in front of me, and like the next 20% of this conveyor belt was just a lot of darkness, a lot of not fun stuff, and I was like, ah, I just have to get through this tiny little bit of my life, this tiny little bit of darkness in my life, and then I'll be in the light. Because the rest of the conveyor belt was a bunch of light, there was a little bit of darkness, there was like, boop, spots of darkness. But you know, from the ages to 0 to 20 on this conveyor belt, when I was seeing the timeline of my life, it was just darkness, just complete pitch black. So like, I was like, you know, having it be mostly light and then specks of darkness, I'll take that, boys. So then I went on this conveyor belt. I understood this was the timeline of my life, and there was some darkness that needs to happen within my life for me to transform, and then I'll live a life of light and shit like that. And I kind of believed it, but I also was logically like, I'm tripping on shrooms. Like, this could just be me trying to give myself hope because I've had a shitty life. You know, that's not out of the possibility. But I was clinging on to that hope for a hot minute, and then I sat down, I meditated for a bit, and then I thought about life. And then while I was fucking meditating, I just shot into the heavens. My soul left my body and I shot into my heavens. And I went into a video game character select screen. And my higher self, my spirit guide, whatever the fuck you want to call the homie, was talking to me. And she was like, yo, so this is you. And I saw myself in like a character select screen. I was just like saying stuff. I was like, what's up? And then she's like, you could change your hair. She swiped and like my hair was changing and stuff like that. You could change your eyes. You could change all this stuff. You could change your past. You know that mother that spent so many years making you miserable and teaching you how to hate yourself? You know all that trauma you went through? You know all those friends that you had to watch die? You know those friends that you watched overdose? You know that girl that you loved and then watched her die too? You could change all of that. You could change all of that in an instant. Because before you were born, before you came here to this earth, you had a choice. And you chose to live this life because this is the lessons that you were meant to learn. And then she said, after you learn these lessons, you will become Atlas. And once you become Atlas, you can change the world. And I was like, dope, you know? So then I looked at myself for a bit, and I stared at myself. And I started recalling everything that happened to me as a kid. All of that sadness, that trauma, that PTSD, you know, all that fun shit that you don't like to think about and you just suppress. I thought about that. And I looked at myself, and then I looked at my higher self. And I was like, I would not change a thing. Everything I have now is perfect. And that was a fucking hard choice to make, because the next couple of years of my life were really shitty. It was tough. I should have changed so many things. But my dumbass looked at myself and was like, nope. This wasn't what I was meant to live. This is the life I was meant to live, and this is how I'm going to live it. And I could have fucking added some inches down under, you know? I could have, like, done so much shit. Could have made my jawline a little bit sexier. Got, like, I don't know, done something. But my fucking dumbass was sitting there in my character select screen, and I said, baby, you perfect. Come here, baby boy. I want a kiss. And then I kissed myself. Not really. Metaphorically, I did. So then after that, I came down and I was just thinking about life, and I was like, damn. I really had the chance to change anything. Fucking anything I wanted, and I said, nah. It's fucking crazy, dude. Oh, also, like, for a little context, so you're not confused, my birth name isn't Atlas, it's something else, but I'm not gonna tell you, because fuck you, you don't get that information, bitch. But, that's the name I'm supposed to become. Name I became. That's the fucking point of the video. I don't know if you read the title, but, like, I gotta become that shit. So, like, you know? It'll make sense later. So then anyways, I was thinking about all that shit that my higher self told me, and then I started crying and stuff like that, and then she gave me a hug, and she was like, hey, I just want you to know, it's gonna be okay. And that meant a lot to me, because, like, after all that shit that I went through, it like, there's a lot of questioning of, like, hey, am I just gonna be, like, okay, like, at all? Like, is anything gonna get better? Like, will I be okay? Like, just in general, like, I don't need to know, like, if I'm gonna be, like, famous, if I'm gonna be rich, if I'm gonna be all this shit. I just want to know if I'm gonna be okay. And there was just a hot struggle for a hot minute of just like, hey, universe, I'm screaming at you, I'm in pain, I want you to notice me, please, for the love of God, universe, can you tell me if I'm gonna be okay? And then the universe was just like, they'll figure it out eventually. And I was just screaming and crying, like, every day, like, universe, shit's kinda hard, bro. Can you, like, give me a sign at all? And on this day, my higher self gave me a hug and was like, hey, man, it's gonna be okay. And that kept me going for a hot minute. I was feeling good after that. I was like, bitch, I'm becoming Atlas. I'm gonna have a good life. I just need to get through this small dark period of my life, and then I'll be okay. And then life started getting better. Then it got a lot worse. And shit started getting real fucking hard, like real hard. But and like everything I tried to do just didn't work. I tried to move out, that shit didn't work. I tried to repair my relationship with my mother, that shit didn't work. I tried to do so much shit, and it just was all failing. And I was just like, damn, this is the dark spot of my life. And I was kind of losing hope that that was real. And I was like, maybe I'm just fucking schizophrenic. I hallucinated my higher self, and this is just a means of keeping myself alive because this is the only thing that I needed to hear in order to, like, push myself through all these dark times, you know? Like, what if I'm not on an actual conveyor belt and I didn't see the future of my life, and I'm just going through this dark shit, and I'm finding ways to help myself cope? And I was thinking about that for a while, and then I fell into that habit, and then I realized why I have that dark period of my life before the light switch turns on. And I fell into a fucking deep depression, boys. It was tough. I started going to work. I at this point I got a job, and I started working at medieval times, and like every day I barely had enough energy to stand. Like I would walk around and like get drained from walking because like life was just so fucking draining. My depression was hitting so badly that like I could barely walk without like falling or like having to support myself because I felt like I was gonna fall. Every day I felt like I was just gonna fucking pass out. Like there was times where I would barely be able to stand up because I was too fucking weak. Like I thought there was something seriously wrong with me, and my memory started getting so fucking bad. Like I couldn't recall like anything. My memory was horrible. And there was times where I would just be standing up and I was like, "Oop, I'm falling. Oop, and I'm going to die." You know, shit like that. And like everything was just bad. The depression all-time high. It was just fucked. It was just fucked. I was just not having a good time. And then I was just like, this is fucked. Everything was just horrible. Like it's like the side effects were so bad. I started looking into if I had cancer and stuff like that, and I was like, maybe I have cancer, maybe I have brain damage because I did boxing and football my entire childhood. Maybe it's just finally catching up to me, you know. So I was looking into all this shit, going into the hospital, being like, what's wrong with me? And then they're like, I don't fucking know, you're sad. And I'm like, no shit, but like, can you check if I have cancer? Like, I think there's like something seriously wrong. And they're like, nah, chill out, you're just sad. And I'm like, no, like, I think there's something seriously wrong. I just started having a panic attack. And my doctor was like, you smoke weed? I'm like, on occasion. And he's like, that's the problem, stop. And I was just like, no, it's like, it's literally something like seriously wrong. I think there's something seriously wrong with me. And he's like, nah. And then he just told me to leave, and I was just like, damn. Damn, that's fucked. So then I was just walking home, just on my way home one day, and this voice was like, hey, on August 8th, 2023, you're gonna become Atlas. And I was just like, what the fuck? They were like, August 8th, remember it? And I was just like, who the fuck are... And then they left, and I was just like, alright. And that was like 4 months before August 8th. So I just like thought about that, and I was like, that was weird. But like for some reason, like I knew that was true. Like I knew August 8th, 2023, I will become Atlas. So that was just in the back of my mind for a hot minute. And then I was just going through this depression for a couple of months. It was kind of fucking tough, boys. And then one day I was just laying in bed, and then the light switch just fucking turned on. Nothing was happening. I was staring at Edward Newgate, my fucking white beard wanted poster, this boy. I remember I was just literally staring at him in bed, and then the switch turned on. Like, I was just in this deep depression, crying, just thinking about life, being like, oh, woe is me, I had such a bad life, oh, PTSD, abuse, whatever the fuck, I don't know, whatever the fuck sad boy me was thinking about back in the day. And I was just sitting in bed, and I looked at that poster, and then there just switch in my brain, and then I just started laughing. And then I just started laughing uncontrollably, and I was like, oh, it's time. That dark period of my life, it's done. I'm over it. And there was just this deep knowing that for some reason, in that moment, I switched from the dark point of my life to the light. Just instantly. Like, I don't fucking know. And then ever since then, I just started being happy. Like, I don't know why. But, like, I just showed up to work next day fucking happy. Just making jokes with the homies. Just having a great time. Which before I wasn't. I barely talked. I was just sad most of the time. Just barely getting through the shift. Only to pass out as soon as I get home. Like, I would literally go to work, go home, sleep, and then just lay in my bed until I go to work the next day because I did not have enough energy. Like, I had such little energy that I had to sleep in between shifts, like, as much as possible, so I could barely get enough energy to barely make it through my shift and then barely come home and do it all again. It was tough. Like, it was fucking tough. I literally barely made it through the day every single day, and it was fucked up. So then I was just laying in bed this one day, and I just felt this light switch go on, and I was like, oh, it's time. I switched from the darkness to the light. And like, when it happens that fast and you're like, oh, I'm so sad, I might die from fucking sadness, to just being like, why am I happy now? Like, I intuitively knew the switch flipped and I'm in the light part of my path. On the conveyor belt, I entered the light part. But I was like, that happened so fast. Like, it can't just be like that. But it was. So then, like, a lot of weird shit started happening. I started seeing synchronicities everywhere. Like, I would turn on my phone, 1111 would be there. I would turn on my phone, 222. Like, all that shit. License plates everywhere. There was a bunch of, like, 888s and stuff like that. And I was like, huh. And I felt like that was a universe telling me, hey, you're gonna be okay. And then I was like, just, I started being in nature more. I was like, I need to be in nature more, connect to Mother Earth, say what's up with Mother Gaia, be like, what's up, home slash? She was like, what's up? You know, that kind of shit. And every day, I would walk outside and there would just be butterflies just all around me, and then birds all around me and stuff like that. And then there's one day I was just meditating outside, you know, and then these butterflies flew over my head, and there was just like 20 birds on my wall in my backyard. Because I have this backyard and there's this fence on it, and there's just birds lining up, and like I felt really, really connected. Like, the inside of my body was just lined with light, because you know when you get into a very deep meditative state and you can feel the light exuberating from your body. Then I looked around and all my bird homies were there, and I was like, oh, and it clicked, because every time I feel connected with the universe, and every time I feel connected with Mother Gaia, the earth, and I'm in this state of meditation, all my bird homies show up, and they start chirping, and they start looking after me, and I was like, oh, these boys are my spirit guides that are looking after me, because I was, for a while, I wanted confirmation that I'm not going crazy, because I believed in this shit, like spirit guides, and like higher self and stuff like that, but I've never, like, met them outside of tripping balls on mushrooms, and I don't like to think that, like, when I'm tripping balls on mushrooms, that is abject reality, because I'm very high, so it's very easy to convince myself that's just a hallucination of my high brain. But like, so I was always like, okay, show me yourself when I'm sober, so I'm I'm crazy, you know? I need to meet my spirit guide so I know I'm not crazy. I need physical fucking proof that I could see with my eyes and not just feel, so I know I'm not a fucking crazy person having a mental breakdown trying to convince themselves they're happy, you know? And then I like looked around and I saw all the birds there, and I was like, oh, these are my spirit guides. And then I saw these butterflies, and then there's 2 butterflies. As soon as I had that idea that danced around my head, they were like, there was 2 boys, and they were just like, ooh, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening? And for the next couple of months, I kept seeing these butterflies, and these white moths in particular. These white moths that apparently are very, very rare, that I didn't know, but I looked at it, and I looked up butterflies, and I realized that the butterflies are like a sign of renewal, rebirth, and like a new life, and the moths were a sign of death, and like the beginning of a new life and the death of the old one, and a rebirth. So it's at this point, it was like around July, which is not August, if you know some things about months and shit. So it was around July, and I was like, oh, I've become Atlas now. That's what's up. I have not. We haven't gotten to 8/8. So on this day, I was like, oh, I've become Atlas. And then I started treating myself as a rebirth and if I were Atlas. And life just started getting better. And I started going into the manic stages of my life. The stage where I'm like very happy and like life's like fucking and shit. You know what I mean? So I started becoming a wizard because I've always wanted to be a wizard and casting spells and shit like that. And as soon as I went into the manic stages of my life, I started meeting people that will be very important to my future, and that will be in my future and teach me a lot of things about life and teach me a lot of lessons. Because for the last like 3 years, I went into this stage of deep isolation. I was by myself most of the time. Like, I was disconnected from most of my family other than my sister because she's the homie, and my gammy. I love my gammy. But I went to this stage of deep isolation where I would, for like 3 years, I would barely ever talk to friends. I never talked to anyone, and that was because I was developing myself. And I realized at this moment that those 3 years where I was in deep isolation and this deep depression, that the entire time I was working on healing my past traumas. And I was working on healing myself and healing my PTSD, my depression, my anxiety, all of that mental illness that I've gathered throughout the years. Those 3 years were the universe telling me, hey, you're not going to distract yourself with a bunch of women and men and like sex and whatever. You're not going to distract yourself with friends. You're not going to do all this shit to keep your mind off all these traumas. I'm going to force you to think about all this shit and force you to sit with this until you can fully heal everything you've been through, so that way you could transform it, so you could learn these lessons from all this sadness and pain that you went through. And once you finally fully heal all this sadness and pain, I'll reintroduce you to the world so you could heal others. And I was just like, damn. And it's at this point that I realized that I went through all this sadness and pain to learn a lot about life so I could heal others, because I meant to come here as a healer. I told you shit's gonna get weird. I told you like half the people that watch this video are gonna think I'm fucking crazy. But you bitches didn't listen. Now you think I'm crazy. I fucking warned you, bitch. Dick. Yeah, so anyways, I started making sense of why I was alone for such a long time, and like I literally like never saw any of my friends. I never saw any, like, I never went on dates and stuff like that. And at this moment, I started connecting with people that will be in my life for a long time. And I've always hid the spiritual side of me because, like, I thought people would think I'm crazy. I still kind of do think that some people think I'm crazy, but now I just care less, you know? So, like, I always thought people would think I'm crazy, so I never talked about any of this shit with, like, fucking anyone. Like, ever. So then, like, I started making all these new friends, and for some reason, something deep inside me was like, it just told me, hey, Atlas, you don't have to lie anymore. You could tell them the truth. So for some reason, every time I made a new friend, and every time I met someone new that I knew I needed to meet to connect with so I could learn more about myself, so I could improve their lives and teach them a lot about what I've learned throughout the years, and they could teach me what they've learned throughout the years, so we could better each other and help us come to a place of understanding of the world even more together. I realized, like, hey, I don't have to lie to them anymore. So I just started telling them, like, all of the crazy shit. I was like, they're like, what's up? Tell me about yourself. I'm like, so I'm a wizard. I'm doing rituals right now to heal myself because I'm in a deep state of sickness. And they're just like, oh, I'm a witch. And I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. And I started making these friends that were all deeply spiritual and that I could connect with, that, like, taught me a lot about life. So I started developing myself a lot more, becoming happier, and just like going down this path of fucking magic and shit, which, like, I realized, like, my life now is everything kid me would have wanted to be. Like, I was obsessed with wizards. Like, I fucking, Harry Potter was my childhood. I don't know how to feel about it now because J.K. Rowling is a person, you know? But, like, childhood me, once a year, I have this ritual to read all of the Harry Potter books, like, front to back, and now I'm a fucking wizard, you know? Now I do magic in real life. Like, my life's kind of sick as shit, you know? It's like, I see my future being everything kid me would have wanted and dreamed of, and I think that's objectively just the fucking coolest thing ever. Like, I'm living exactly how kid me dreamed of living, and that's beautiful. But anyways, so I started meeting all these people, and this one person I met learned that I was doing spells and shit, so they gave me these special flowers for spells, and I forgot about it immediately, and the flowers died, and I was like, oops. And then like a week later, I just got this sudden urge. I'm like, oh, I have to like nurture these flowers back to health and like get them healthy again. I don't fucking know why. So I started taking care of these flowers, and I started just nurturing them back to health slowly, and I was like, baller, this is dope. And then one day, I was just like, hey, I call myself a wizard all the time. Let's make a fucking potion, you know? So I went to the back of my tree, or my backyard, and I found this hibiscus tree. This tree that has a bunch of hibiscus flowers on it. And I meditated under it for a little bit. I watered it, I nurtured it, I gave it nutrition and stuff like that. I lit an incense to connect with the tree, and then I meditated and tried to connect with the tree as much as possible. And then after this meditation and this incense, I asked the tree, I was like, yo, can I use one of your flowers for a ritual? I promise to put it to good use. And then I put my hand on the tree, and I felt like this deep sense of the tree being like, yeah, you can't do that shit. So then I just kind of took one of the flowers and put I took a couple other flowers from different trees that I did the same thing to. It was a long ass process, but it was needed. And I took a bunch of different flowers from a bunch of different trees and plants and shit like that. And the main flower was a hibiscus flower, and I filled up my bathtub and I made myself into a soup. I lit an incense, set some intentions for the ritual. I imbued the water with the incense and the smoke from the incense, and then I laid in the soup. I fucking made an invocation of the soup to bound me to the spell, and then I made the spell and infused it with a bath, and I made myself into a soup. I was a fucking soup with little flowers everywhere, and it was cute as shit. So then I took all the flowers from the soup ritual I just made, and then I picked them all up one by one, and I put them on the plant of the flowers that my friends gave me, the magic flowers that are supposed to help me with whatever the fuck, I don't know. So then I put them all on there, and I told them to heal each other, and I thought that I made that ritual so I could heal the flowers, and I was like, beautiful. So then for the next couple of days, I took care of both the flowers of the ritual and the flowers of the original plant, and I nurtured them together. And then one day, I got really, really fucking sick. I got COVID, and I started coughing so badly that I just started throwing up. It was horrible. I was throwing up. I was coughing. My stomach hurt. I was just having a horrible, horrible time. And that day was August 8th. Or it was August 7th. The day started at August 7th, but by the time I came to the realization, it was 2 o'clock in the morning at August 8th. So I was like, oh shit, it's the day. I didn't even fucking realize it. I just woke up and it was the fucking day. Because if you remember previously in the video, my higher self told me on August 8th I will fully become Atlas. So I didn't know what was going to happen. But I woke up that day and I was like, oh, today's the day. And it was a tough day to wake up to. Because I woke up at 2 in the morning fucking vomiting and shit. So then I looked at the flowers and I understood. I understood the purpose of it. I took the flowers that I used in ritual that I was cultivating for healing purposes, and I ground them all up into a sweet, sweet tea, and it tasted like shit. I made a fucking tea. I'm not very good at making tea, but I boiled the water, put all the leaves in the tea, and I made a fucking sweet little tea, and it tasted a little bit like shit. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But as soon as I drank the tea, my cough went away. And I immediately healed all my sickness. Like, I don't know how the fuck that happened. I took a sip, my cough was gone. By the time I finished the tea, I was fully healthy. I felt fully healthy, and it was like I was not even sick. Like, by the time I finished the tea, I went from coughing so much I was fucking violently throwing up my guts to being fully healthy. And I was like, oh, so that was the purpose of the flowers and why I did that ritual and all that stuff like that. And I also didn't really tell you much about this, but I feel like it's very important that you know. The last couple of months leading up to this moment 8/8, I've been seeing butterflies everywhere, and I kept knowing like, hey, this is a sign of rebirth and death. Or butterflies and moths. The white moths would always come with the butterflies. Like there would always be a butterfly that would come, and then a white moth that would follow. Or like there would be two butterflies that would dance around, and then two white moths that would dance around. It was always a butterfly would come, and then a white moth would follow. And I took that as a sign of death and rebirth. And I thought that was the death and rebirth of Atlas, which was me. And I knew that I was going to be born on August 8th. So I took this soup that or not soup, tea that I made, drank the shit out of it, and I was like, I'm fucking Atlas now, boys. This is baller as shit. I just felt like I fully became myself. And multiple people, because I told my friends that I'm becoming Atlas on August 8th. Multiple people said they met me in their dreams. They said that I came up to them in their dreams, and the first thing I said is, hello, I'm Atlas now, nice to meet you. Multiple people. They had dreams about me where we did some random shit. One person said we went on a pirate ship together. One person said we robbed a bank. One person said we went to the mall. 3 people said, I saw you in my dream. You came up to me. You were glowing white and said, hello, my name's Atlas, nice to meet you. Or some shit like that. It was some variation of that exact thing that happened with multiple people, and I was like, this is fucking wild. So then I was starting to feel good. I was like, I'm no longer sick, because I was like sick for a couple of days. I'm no longer sick. I'm fucking Atlas. And shit was feeling fucking good. And I looked on my phone, I opened YouTube, and it said 8/8 Lion Gate portal opened. And I don't know if you know this, but on 8/8 that was the opening of the Lionsgate portal. And that's a kind of a special moment for a lot of people, but it was kind of also extra special for me, because the Lionsgate portal is the opening of the Leo gate, the gate of the Leo, and I am a Leo. My star sign, my zodiac is a Leo, and the Lionsgate portal is a very special time for Leos, and it's the opening of the Leo gateway, or some shit like that, you know what I mean? And I was like, I didn't even fucking know that. And this whole time, I'm a fucking Leo, and I knew that in my gut that Atlas was going to be born on 8/8, August 8th, 2023. And 2023, August 8th, is the most strong Lionsgate portal opening that there ever has been, apparently, from what I've heard. And I was like, that's kind of fucking crazy, dude. So I was feeling good about myself. I was feeling great. And leading up to this, to give you some context, you know, I told you my mother and I don't have the best relationship. We were kind of traumas. We were the trauma boys, you know. It was tough. So I had a really good relationship with my Gammy, because she always took care of me. She was always there for me. She was like my mother, you know. She was like who I viewed as my actual mother. You know what I mean? Like, she always took care of me, and she lives across she lived across the street from me, you know? So she was always right there, and I was just like, what's up? So every time I was sad or anything, I'd just pull up to Gammy's house. And my mother, and her favorite number was 8. So leading up to this day, I kept saying 888 everywhere. I would like look around and I would see 888. And I remember I was in the car with my mother, and we found this car that had a license plate that said 888. And I was like, haha, that's funny. And a couple days later, we found the exact same car when I was at a coffee shop with my sister, getting coffee, and it said 888, the exact same car. And then a couple days later, I was in the car with my mother again, 888, exact same car. I was like, this is fucking crazy. And on August 8th, I saw a different car with 888 on it, and I was like, this is crazy. And on August 8th, at 7 o'clock, I decided today was going to be a day of self-preservation, self-care. Today was going to be a self-care day. It's 888. I'm going to become Atlas, so it's going to be a self-care day. 7 o'clock, I was like, fuck it, we ball. We're ordering sushi. I ordered $50 worth of sushi. I was balling. I was like, fuck yeah. $50 worth of sushi? We're going to treat ourselves today, boys. So then I looked at the Uber Eats order, and and it said it was coming at 8 o'clock, and I was like, I know life is just right now, boys. The sushi that I ordered for self-care day on the day I become Atlas is coming at 8 o'clock. And around 7:30 is when I learned that my grandma was in the hospital, and she had less than an hour to live. As soon as I was walking in to see my grandma, I left immediately. I was sick, or I had COVID. I didn't feel sick. I was perfectly fine. So, I wasn't supposed to go to the hospital. So my dad was like, you gotta stay home, you're sick. And I'm like, no, I'm going to see my grandma. She's my everything. I love her so much. I'm not gonna be there. Or I'm not gonna not be there while she dies. Because one of my biggest regrets is a couple of my dogs died, and I was too sad, and I didn't want to see them die. So when they got put down, I wasn't there for them. When my ex died, I wasn't there for her. When my friend died, I wasn't there for him. So my dad was like, you need to stay home, you're sick. And I'm like, grandma's dying already. If I give her COVID, it's not going to be a big deal. She literally has only a couple hours to live. I'm going to be there for her. And as soon as I walked into the hospital room, she flatlined. At 8 o'clock on August 8, 08/08, 8 o'clock, my grandma died. I realized that I made that hibiscus tea because I only used half the hibiscus flower because I, for some reason, was like, I'm going to need the other half later. So I made this hibiscus tea. And I realized it was in a place of healing of my sickness. It was in a place of healing for me, or the flowers that I originally thought I was healing. But it was a place of healing for my grandma, so I could help her safely pass into the afterlife. Because I view humans as the flowers of the world. I feel like every human is connected to a certain flower that helps them be connected to Mother Gaia and their spiritual side. And my grandma's favorite flower, the flower she loved the most in life, and the flower that she was connected to the most, and the flower that represented her as a person, was the hibiscus flower. The same exact flower I used for the healing of myself that I made into a tea to heal my sickness. And I realized at this moment that hibiscus flower was for her. So I did my little thing. I cast a spell to make sure that she passed safely on to the next life. I said a little prayer. I held her hand and told her how much I loved her. I kissed her on the forehead, and we sent her off to the afterlife. And I realized at this moment, because my grandma is a lot like me, I feel like I'm an incarnation of my grandma. And my grandma also had an abusive mother. She was a drinker, and she was very disconnected with her mother. And it was at this moment that I realized that my grandma never healed those wounds. She never healed the wounds of her mother. She never healed the wounds of what her mother did to her, and she never healed the relationship she had with her mother. And I realized that me and my grandma are a reflection of my grandma, or me and my mother are a reflection of my grandma and her mother. And I realized that I'm here on this earth as a healer. I'm here to heal my family's generational wounds, and I went through all that pain and sadness as a kid so I could transform it into love, and I could use this pain and sadness to heal others, and I could use the pain I went through to help others when they're going through similar pains. And I realized that I'm a reflection of my grandma, and I'm living through my grandma's family trauma, and I'm here to overcome it. And I realized that my grandma never healed that pain and sadness with her mother, and I'm here to develop a connection with my mother and heal my mother from her pains so she could learn to be a better person, and finally heal the generational trauma that came with my grandmother and her pains of her childhood. I really didn't want to, because I really didn't want to forgive my mother for the longest time, but it was at this moment I was like, Mother, I love you. You may have gave me a tough childhood, but you did your best. You were doing a lot of stuff, and I'm here to help you. And now I think it's my goal to help my mom heal, and to help send her on a path of forgiveness, and when I could forgive her, she could forgive herself, all that good shit. And then it'll heal the generational trauma, and then we could transform the generational trauma and make life better for the next people to come, you know? And I sat there crying because, you know, my mother figure just fucking died. That was tough. And, but I knew that was the opening of the Lionsgate portal, and that this happened for a reason, and I will carry on my grandma's legacy of love and kindness despite the fact that, because she was the most loving and kind person I ever knew. Even if there was people that didn't deserve it, she would show them love and kindness no matter what. And I knew I had to carry that with me. Even those people that don't deserve it, I'll show them love and kindness and try to help them as much as I physically can. Because that's what my grandma would have wanted, and that's how she lived her life. And I learned that I have to take all the lessons that she taught me in this life and use them to heal everyone so her legacy can go on. And at that day, I fully knew I've become Atlas. And a couple of days later, I was going through my grandma's house, and we were cleaning it out because, you know, dead people and shit, you gotta go through their house. And we were trying to find some Kleenex that we could use because we were running low, and we're like, hey, Gammy's dead, might as well loot her shit while she's down, or some fucking shit, I don't know. So my sister and I had this really hard time where we went back to Gammy's house for the first time since she died, and we were looking at all of her belongings, and I was crying a lot. I was looking at all the memories, all the photos of us together, and it was a tough time. But I was going through the house, and I was just having this hard time. And then we spent a while there, and my sister was like, you ready to go? And I was like, yeah. And the second we set foot out of the house, I saw a white moth. The exact white moth I've been seeing for the past 4 months that symbolizes death and rebirth. And I looked at that white moth, and I nodded, and I was like, yeah, I'm Atlas now. And I feel like that white moth was my grandma telling me, hey, I made it to the other side safely. I did my job here, and now it's your turn. And that, my friends, is the story of how I became Atlas. I hope you enjoyed it. There's still a lot to go in this story of my life, so, and there's also a lot I left out. There's a lot of shit, random, weird, magical shit that happens in my life, so if you want to stick around and find out what the fuck I'm up to, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll continue telling wild shit like this, and I know my journey has just begun, and it's just gonna get fucking weirder and more wild. So if you want to hear how wild and weird it gets, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all a lot, and I'll see you next time, boys. Bye bye.